the people around you know a version of you that you no longer are. Because, when you put in the work, when you grow, you become someone different. I am not the Miriam that I was 1 year ago, only one, not even a year, because it's going to be a year in February.
Welcome to the Chingona Revolution podcast, where we will bring out your inner badass Latina, overcome self-doubt, help you gain clarity, and pave your own path, all while leading with courage. I am your host, Latina coach and speaker, Erica Cruz. Hello. Welcome back to this week's episode of Chingona Revolution podcast. This is your host, Erica Cruz. I realize I never say that during my introductions. I think you all know who I am at this point, but I should probably repeat that, especially for the new listeners. I have a question for you. Have you ever felt a deep calling in your soul, but maybe fear or doubt or the opinions of others held you back? Well, if so, you're not alone. And today I'm sitting down with Miriam Corona, a Courage Driven Latina who turned her what if into reality. Miriam had the career, the family, and the so-called quote unquote success, but something inside her kept whispering that she was meant for more. So in this episode, we talk about the power of following your purpose, how to push past imposter syndrome, and why stepping out of your comfort zone is the key to true fulfillment. If you would like to learn the tools and the resources that Miriam used to go from having this massive dream that felt impossible to making it reality in less than a year, then join me on March 5th because I am hosting a free webinar titled The Pivot Purpose. Dare to dream again and align your career or your business with your calling in 90 days. You can register using the link below in the show notes. And again, that's happening on March 5th at 5 o'clock Pacific. Don't forget to bring a friend, and let's get into this podcast episode. Miriam, welcome to Chingona Revolution podcast. How are you?
Good. Thank you. Thank you, Erica, for having me.
It has been a pleasure to work with you over almost the last year. We're coming up on a year of knowing each other. So for people who don't know who you are, can you just give us a quick intro? Who are you? What do you do? And anything that you think is important to share about your background.
Hi. So my name is Miriam Corona, and it's going to be a year with Courage Driven Latina. And it's just been a journey. It's been a journey, a beautiful one. I've grown so much, and that's what I want to share. I want to share that all the growth that I've experienced. And a little bit more about me. I am married. I have 3 boys, and my background is a little bit in human resource and leadership. There was this dream in me and this thought that I wanted to help. I wanted to help women. I wasn't sure how, but in human resource and in leadership, I thought those were the way. I was trying to look for how could I help, and that's, I think, what really prompted me to seek more.
I love that you shared this because before we even jumped on, I was like, I definitely want to ask her about what life was like before you had this dream of giving back in a different way. Because what I find is that most people that are drawn to me or that come to my program or that listen to the podcast, they're already successful, right? So you had a career in human resources and in leadership. You had pretty much like built your family. And then if I'm not mistaken, your kids are a little bit older, right? Like even they have kids. So with this, like you could have just chilled back and been like, I'm ready for retirement and I don't care. And by the way, you're still super young. I'm assuming you had kids very young. But you could have just sat back and said, okay, I'm ready for retirement. But tell us a little bit more about,
this experience where people probably looked at Miriam and were probably like, "Oh yeah, yes, exitosa. She's already successful, right?" And then like how did you navigate wanting more while also being grateful for what you had?
I think what happened is that something kept calling me. I would wake up in the morning, I would think about like, man, I really want to help. I want to help women. And I knew I wanted to help women because I wanted to be that person that I didn't have. And I can't quite remember how I found you, Erica, but I do remember that when you launched your podcast, again, because I had followed you for a while. It was a very long, it was years to make it exact. Um, every day I would put on this podcast, and every day on my way to work, I would listen to it because every morning I would wake up with this dream of like, I didn't know what it looked like to help women, but I knew that that's what I wanted to do because every time I would wake up and I would open my eyes, I would daydream about this life. And then I would listen to your podcast every morning. And the reason I would do that on my way to work, because it would remove me from my routine and it allowed me to enter into this possibility that I'm like, wow, there's other people making it. There's other ladies, other women that are out there. And so to me, it was to enter a world of a possibility. And I didn't know if that possibility could be for me.
Wow, that is so powerful. And what a full circle moment that now you're telling us this story on the podcast.
Yes. And that's what I wanted to share with you, that I was so excited because because I had listened and I had followed you for such a long time, I knew that if I ever joined, um, I said I want to be on that podcast. I want to be that possibility for other women too. So yes, I I had to go back, and when I received the invitation to be on your podcast, I went back and I'm like, who was Miriam a year ago? And is such so beautiful because it's a reflection now. I reflected and I'm like, oh my goodness, I did not realize how far I've come. I pulled up my first Courage project and I was like, I did that. I've done that.
Yes. So I actually pulled up your Courage project as well, your first one. And even just the first time that you checked in, where you said, I don't know if this is possible for me. Like, I don't know if I can actually do this for your Courage project. So, can you tell us? Oh, I have so many questions for you, but I want to make it, I'll be sure to ask all of them. Let's actually take it back to something you just said. You said something kept calling you every time you woke up and you kept having this calling, this dream was planted inside of you that you knew you wanted to help women and give back and help women in a way that you wish you were helped. So, can you tell me, even though this calling kept coming, what stopped you from taking action on that calling? What doubts, what obstacles, what was getting in the way of you going after it?
Wow, I think there was a couple of things or a lot of things, but the ones that I can remember is like I stuck in the routine, not wanting to step out of that routine of comfort, of being financially secure. Look at I've already accomplished because in my previous employers, I entered as a representative, someone who answers the phones. And then after that, I went into human resources. And then after that, I went into leadership and I kept being promoted. And I'm like, this feels good. Like, this is what I've always dreamed of. This is what I've always wanted. And then, I finished school during that time. I'm like, I wanted to get a degree because I thought that that's what's going to be the satisfying part. And then, but I kept having this thought, this dream every morning. So one of the things that I think that would stop me were the routine and the comfort. But also, I would think like, yeah, but I don't know if that's possible for myself. Again, like I wrote on my courage project, I'm like, I'm not as brave as them. I'm not as out there as them. Or I kept comparing myself to others. And I'm like, I don't think I can do that. And the biggest one, I think that the biggest one was, what are people gonna say? What what are people gonna say? ¿Qué va a decir la gente? Like, look at her. What is she thinking? She's a life coach. Again, and then I think that this sometimes could happen a lot, and I want to share this for our audience because a lot of the times the people around you know a version of you that you no longer are because when you put in the work, when you grow, you become someone different. I am not the Miriam that I was 1 year ago. Only one, not even a year, because it's going to be a year in February, the end of February, because I was reading my courage project, and I was reading what I wanted for myself, and I was like, that was February 23rd. Yes.
You know, it's so funny that as people are hearing you speak on this podcast, they're probably thinking, oh, of course she was going to be a life coach. Like it's just so natural for you. But it's so hard for us to see ourselves in that light. And you brought up so many good points and so many valid fears and obstacles that people face. And whoever's listening, I want you to just kind of think about whatever it is that you want to do. Maybe you don't want to be a life coach, but maybe you want to switch the industry that you work in. Maybe you want to launch a podcast. Maybe you want to create content. Maybe you want to create a change in your life. So, whatever change that you want to make, I think it's still relevant to what Miriam just described, which was stepping out of the comfort zone, right? The routine. That's a big one because it's second nature to keep doing what we've always done. But change doesn't happen when we keep doing the same thing over and over. It requires us to step out of the routine, step out of comfort, and to do something different. But you also brought up something else that was really good, especially for all of these women who are successful on paper, who are successful in the corporate world. And that's that idea that I worked so hard for this. How am I going to go throw this away? And I think for you, right, you were able to start off at an entry level and work your way up and end up in leadership and finish your degree. There were so many reasons for you to justify staying where you were. And if you would have chosen to stay there, there was nothing wrong with that. The reason going after this calling was the courageous thing to do is because it kept calling you and you knew it was something that you wanted. So with everything that you just said, and then also this idea of, oh, I'm not as brave as them, it's so easy to look at other people and just assume it was easy for them. But being brave isn't even easy for me. And I'm the founder of Courage Driven Latina. I get scared every day. And every time I have to make a new big decision, it is so scary. And I chicken out a few times before I actually do it. And I don't think we talk about that enough, that there's almost this dance before you actually take the leap. And I was able to witness your dance. And it was a beautiful journey because you did the work and you held yourself accountable. And I see it through, we do these like monthly check ins, the Courage Project check ins, and you were very consistent with filling them out. And what I thought was so interesting about yours is that you started off with like, I think I want to do this, but it's too early to tell. I don't know if I could do this. And then you're like, okay, I'm starting to post on social media. And then your like energy kind of went up. And then you didn't see the results you wanted right away. And you're like, there's just so much for me to do. And I'm not seeing results right away. So I don't know if this is going to work. And then that brought your energy back down. And then you like held one of your events and then that brought your energy back up. And as soon as you saw what your work did for people, that was the moment that you were able to like fully go all in and make the change. Would you agree?
Yes, I definitely agree. And everything you said is just, yes, I can totally relate with it. It's exactly what happened. And I think that something very important that you're mentioning right now is that, you know, you go through phases. There's like a phase of this, a phase of that. And I think that I want to share that, like, one of the things that I love the most there's a lot of things I love the most in Courage Driven Latina, but I think that the courage cycle is like it truly is like getting clarity, making that decision, and then taking the action, and then revising that. And the courage letter as well, because you're going to forever grow and forever you're going to take those steps. And I think that those two things in the program have really helped me, because again, something that I have been working even with my own clients is that we could have all the information that's out there. We can try to do everything ourselves. And because that's what I would tell myself too. I would be like, I'm a smart girl. I'm always researching stuff. I have all this information. I don't need anybody to help me. But you see, I stayed in the same cycle. It was like the same circle. I would go over, wake up, do the same thing over and over. But until you don't take that one step, that one foot forward that says, I'm going to remove myself from the everyday cycle and take action, and do that one thing that will make everything else change, nothing's going to happen. And I think that that's where I would get stuck. I would get clarity of like, this is what I want to do. I want to, and then I make the decision. This is when I want to make it. But then it's like, I would get stuck in the researching like, oh, this seems like too much. And then I would go right back to the same thing. And so joining Courage Driven Latina was like, now I have someone to go to. Now I have someone who's already experienced it. I'm already in a I'm going to get a community who's already done it, and they're just going to say, "Yeah, just do this." And I'm over here like researching and getting nowhere.
Yeah, you bring up such a good point because when people make a decision that they want to do something, their immediate next step is, okay, let me go figure out how I'm going to do it. And then they start researching. And as you know, we live in this era of information where not only do you have access to resources and information, you have access to so much information. One person is saying do this, one person is saying do that, and it becomes so overwhelming. And even with like, a life coaching business, I mean, there's so many resources out there that it becomes overwhelming. Like then it's decision fatigue. You're like, I don't even know exactly what to focus on. But I think what you're pointing out is when you make a decision to invest in yourself, you've one made it's a whole nother level of commitment. It's not like a Google research. It's like at that point you've committed your time and some resources, right? Or resources in general, which was time and money. You've invested time and money into this. And then when you're given a structure from somebody who's done it before, and then you're also surrounded by other people who are doing similar things, not the exact same courage project, but something similar, that motivates you and holds you accountable. And I'm saying this from a perspective of also being a client. I have multiple coaches. I have like two coaches right now for different things. And without those programs, my program wouldn't exist. So I think what you're saying is like the importance of investing in yourself, and how the moment that you make that decision, it no longer becomes this passive action of doing research, but it becomes this like, oh no, I'm taking it seriously and I'm going to make this work. So tell us about that decision. Like how, because you said you've been following me for a while. When did you decide I'm going to join this program? And why was this program the program you wanted to join? Because there's a lot of amazing programs out there.
Yeah, so because I had been following you for such a long time, and again, because I saw that possibility, and yes, I had joined other programs before, but it was not a Latino community. So
Mhm.
that I think is what like attracted me the most, because I needed someone to be able to relate to my stories, to my life, to what I've gone through. And so that was huge for me. So I think that what um, allowed me to make the decision, I think I remember you offered a free webinar, and it was called Courage Week. And
Yeah.
after that, I was like, this is the time. This is the time. I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing anything to that's fulfilling. I mean, my work was fulfilling in leadership, yes. But at the time, I would only be working for 3 more months at that position, and I was going to be done. And so this came at such a right time. And And I'm like, I don't want it to be the same. I don't want another year to be the same. I want to change. And going back to that, like, you can have all the resources, you can read all the books, but if you don't take a step and make that the decision and take this action, you have to take action. It's just so powerful to take that action, that investment in yourself. And I was not the kind of person to invest in myself. I remember in 2020, I invested in a program, and again, it wasn't a Latino community, and it helped me a lot. But I felt like I went right back to my circle, into my comfort zone, and but following you, and again, putting me in that room full of possibilities because of others, that's what helped me, because the community is able to relate was able to relate with me. They were also in the same place. Like, they also wanted to grow. They
Mhm.
also were on courage projects. They were also We were all being held accountable, because it's like, oh, you're doing this, I'm doing this, and you get that encouragement, like, oh, I'm gonna start posting, let's start posting. So you get the encouragement from your other, uh also, all the other ladies in the program.
You know what I think is so beautiful? Whenever you first joined the program, you were inspired by the people in the program. I'm sure you still are, right? Because there's inspiration to pull from everyone. Even I get inspired from the women in the program. But on one of the last coaching calls that you said something, you were pretty much sharing your win, and you were pretty much talking about how, I know it can feel impossible, but trust me, if you put in the work and you show up and you ask for coaching and you take the action, it's going to work out. So it was like this full circle moment of, you joined to get inspiration from the people around you, but now you are the inspiration for the people in the program. You are the evidence that it works. It works if you put in the work and if you show up. And earlier you were talking about oh my gosh, there's like the most beautiful rainbow in front of me right now. It's been storming all morning. And it's no accident that as I'm talking about your like full circle journey, a beautiful rainbow comes out. But earlier you were talking about the courage ladder as well as the courage cycle, which are things that are inside of the program, but they're actually very simple frameworks to help you get structure or have structure rather than going in circles and being overwhelmed by research. And that's exactly what the program is supposed to do, to help you make your goals more tangible so it feels attainable. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because you still have to do the work, and you've done the work.
Okay, hold on real quick. Before we continue on with this episode, I have a question for you. Have you ever woken up and thought, there has to be more to life than this? If so, I feel you. I was stuck in a job that looked perfect on paper but felt empty inside. And if you are in the same situation, you are not alone. Most of the women that I work with feel the same way. Like, they should be grateful for what they have, yet deep down, they also feel this calling and they know that they are meant for more. And then comes the guilt. Who am I to want more? Especially when I already have so much more than my parents did. I should just be grateful. But let me tell you something. Wanting more doesn't mean that you are ungrateful. It means that you are ready to step into your full potential. Some of my clients are pivoting into new industries. Others are saying, forget the industry, and they are starting their own businesses and working for themselves. Others are looking for more meaning through creating content and impact. But they all have one thing in common. They are finding their way back to their purpose and to fulfillment. And this is a common thing I'm seeing in our community. We are no longer just chasing titles or chasing money. We are really in it for impact and meaning, especially in today's climate. And that is why I'm hosting a free live webinar called The Purpose Pivot. Dare to dream again and align your career or business with your calling in 90 days. It's happening on Wednesday, March 5th at 5 p.m. Pacific time. In this webinar, I will share how I went from a stable yet unfulfilling tech career to building a purpose-driven business that aligns with my true calling, and how you can discover your purpose as well. Here's what you'll learn: the surprising reason why ambitious mujeres feel stuck and how to break free. You're going to learn how to align your career or your business with your calling without walking away from everything that you've already built. I'm also going to share the proven strategies that worked for me and hundreds of clients in order for them to not only find their purpose, but also live their purpose. So be sure to save your seat. The link is down below, or you can just go to couragedrivenlatina.com and secure your spot there. Also, be sure to tell a friend, be sure to tell your bestie, because courage loves company. It's so much easier to do hard things when you do hard things with amazing people by your side. So again, this is happening on Wednesday, March 5th at 5 o'clock Pacific time. You can register using the link down below, or you can go directly to couragedrivenlatina.com. And there is a cherry on top. Webinar attendees do get an exclusive bonus when the doors for Courage Driven Latina open after the webinar. So I've been getting a bunch of questions about when I'm opening the doors again for CDL, for Courage Driven Latina. They are opening again right after the webinar. So talk to your partner. A lot of people have been waiting for the doors to open. Do whatever it is that you have to do. Get ready for it. If you have specific questions, you can always send me a DM, but definitely attend the webinar. Amiga, your future self is waiting. I can't wait to see you on March 5th at 5 p.m. Pacific time.
Yes, yes, you do have to do the work. You do have to take the step. You do have to take that brave action. And I think that, and even right now, like I'm still like Erica says, we can do hard things. And it's like, I'm like, I want to be on the podcast because I know that I've had that on my vision board. But then it's like, you're going to do the podcast and you're like, I kind of want to back out. so,
Yeah.
so now it's like, no, we can do hard things. We take brave action. We're so scared. And you know what? You've done scary things before, because when I was a representative answering phone calls, I had to take brave action and apply to human resources. And this is a backstory, but I didn't get the job when I applied at human resources the first time I applied. But then the person that was there was going to leave. And this was like a couple months later. And so, but the person that interviewed me remembered my interview. And then
Wow.
I was able to get the job then. And so I went into the human resources, learned lots, and then after that I was promoted into leadership. But I think that even those steps, they were scary. They were very
Yeah.
scary because, okay, you're in human resources and now you're trying to jump, and you've been promoted already. You want to promote yourself again? So so that was like, that was scary. That was scary. Like, okay, what are they going to think? Like, oh, how is she getting all of these positions? How is she making all that happen? That hasn't been seen here. So those were scary things. And but then
Mhm.
again, we're over here scared of taking action on something that, is your dream, is your passion, is your call. I call it my calling.
Yeah.
And I don't know why we end up in that fear.
Yeah. And, you brought up such a good point about the first time that you applied for the job. You could have easily taken that quote unquote rejection so personally, and then like never, you could have been like, no, I don't want the job anymore. You guys already declined me. But I feel like your ability to bounce back from that rejection and then it ended up working out and you ended up getting the job, that's what makes you such a good entrepreneur and such a good coach, because putting yourself out there is going to result in rejection. You are going to post things and nobody's going to engage. You are going to post things and not as many people that you thought were going to like the post or anything like that. So I feel like that resiliency has served you not just in your career, but also in your coaching business.
Yes, definitely. It has. It
So
really has.
earlier, you talked about one of the things that was holding you back was this thought of what are people going to think and say, or qué va a decir la gente. How do you feel about that now? Actually, wait, we haven't even gotten into what you're doing. So, what happened? Are you a life coach now?
I am a life coach. I kept telling myself in the beginning, because I'm so glad you brought this up, because this is something I wanted to share. Because at first I didn't know that I wanted to be a life coach. I didn't know what helping women would look like for me.
Mhm.
And that's some clarity that I obtained by taking action, which was like, okay, how am I going to help women? And then I started this, I'm like, well, what Courage Driven Latina has been for me, you as a coach and your team, I was like, that, I want to be that. And so that's how I'm like, I want to be a life coach, because I want to be that to other women, which is, help them, lift them up. Okay, you don't know what to do here. Let's go this way. Take this step. Guide them. Create that structure for them, because that's what I needed in order to start taking action. I needed some sort of structure, and I love all the paths. I thought that when I joined, I thought I'm just gonna do the CEO path, and then the goal will be to be one day be on the podcast. And but then I ended up doing the confidence path, the content creation path, and at the end I was doing the CEO path.
Mhm.
But yes, I I think that that's all of those are so crucial for growing. And I started to life coach, and I took on complimentary clients at first. And it was a little bit tough, because when you don't know what a life coach is, I think that that's what kind of pulls people away. They're like,
Mhm.
what do I need a life coach for? What are you talking about?
Which was one of your thoughts at the beginning too. You were like, "I can do this myself. Why do I need a coach?"
Oh, yeah. And so took on my complimentary clients, kind of like experienced that, like, okay, how am I going to help you? And I think along during my complimentary clients, I ended up experiencing like, you're as a life coach, you're your first client. And you
Totally.
and so I had to, because the program taught me how to self coach, I had to self coach on
Mhm.
many of the experiences I was having. And after that, after having my complimentary clients, I I was having trouble structuring myself, and having a plan, and wanting to follow that plan, but then also taking into account that, and something I learned from you too, life is going to life, and something else is going to
Yeah.
come up. And so I was like, I'm making plans for my clients. Now, how do I keep them on that plan? Because life is happens,
Yeah.
and things change. So I was like, I want to reach out to more women as well. And so it was all an experiencing to be a life coach. And in order to become a better life coach, you have to be doing something. And I think that those experiences helped me to create a workshop, because I'm like, what if I can bring them into a workshop and maybe teach more women, create a space for them, just like
Mhm.
the spaces that are created that I have discovered. Because
Yeah.
I was thinking, like, not everybody knows that there's someone you can trust. There's coaches.
Especially in our community, right?
Yes, especially in our community.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and again, going back to the same thing, like, I wanted to be that person that I didn't have. I wanted to have someone that I could trust, someone that I could like say, like, this is going on with me.
Mhm.
Am I normal or am I not normal?
Definitely. And I'm sure that once you started coaching people, you're like, oh my goodness, I'm not the only one going through this, which is probably the same experience you had whenever you joined the program. But then you were able to create that space for all of the women that have attended your workshop and your workshops and your group coaching programs. That's so lovely.
I think that the greatest of the workshops that I've created, I think identity, an identity workshop that I created, an in person. That was my
Mhm.
very first one, but I think it was the most valuable one, because if you don't know who you are, you're not rooted into what your beliefs, your values. It's just so much
Yeah.
harder to know where you're going, what you're doing, because you're pulled
Yep.
in so many different ways.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I agree. So now what do you think about ¿Qué va a decir la gente? What are people going to think and say now that you have a successful business?
I'm glad you came back to that, because I think that I have outgrown that, and I think that I was able to outgrow ¿Qué va a decir la gente? Because I was able to take the action, and what used to just be a thought, and that what
Mhm.
used to just be a dream, and even though I'm still in the beginning stages, still I created evidence, which is something else I've learned in the program. There was no evidence of me being a life coach. Now I can say, yes, I'm a life coach because
Mhm.
I've been life coaching. Yes,
Exactly.
I'm working on creating evidence as a public speaker, which the workshops have helped as well. And again,
Exactly.
I remember we there's a book club at my church, and I remember joining that, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is going to help me with my public speaking. You just have to take action. Okay, how can I create that evidence? And I even shared this also in my 2025 prepared. I created a workshop to like wrap up 2024, go into 2025, and I shared this story because it's just so valuable. If there's no evidence of what you want to become, or what you want to be, or bring that dream to life, you have to go and create it. What do you have to
Mhm.
do? What one step? Don't make it hard. What's that one step that is going to take you to create to or to begin to create that evidence that that's what you are? For example, me, I am a life coach, and I
Exactly.
I had to create that evidence that it is possible.
Yeah, because if you don't, then you believe your doubts, and that just stops you from going forward. So, do you think, Miriam, that you have found your purpose?
I know I've found my purpose. Yes. It's so fulfilling every time I talk to people about my life coach and the plans that I have, because again, this is
Mhm.
just the beginning. Like, God is not done
Totally.
with me. God is not done with you, and everybody listening. Like, this is just the beginning. Your first step is going to be the beginning of so much more. And I don't think I mean, when I was thinking and going again reflecting on everything, I was thinking like, "Oh my goodness, like that was just a thought. That was just a dream."
Yeah.
And now I'm living it, and everybody that speaks to me and I tell them about what my plans are, they're like, "Oh my gosh, you just light up like a light switch. Like, oh my gosh, I could see it in your eyes." And it's like, "Yes, because I have so many plans. I have so many dreams still, but now I can say all I need to do is take action. All I need to do, what needs to happen in order for me to
Mhm.
get there. I'm not scared anymore. I'm not thinking like, ¿qué va a decir la gente?
Yeah.
And I want to share the part where you showed us the spotlight analogy, because that one impacted me since the first time you shared that. Sometimes we put the spotlight on ourselves, where and that's where you're not coming from a heart of service, but instead, if you focus the spotlight on everyone else that's waiting for you, expecting what you have, because each one of us have a purpose, each one of us has something that we can share, each one of us have such unique skills that we can also share. And again, like, coaching has just life coaching has been so beautiful in the short amount of time that I've done it. I was kind of calculating because I feel like I'm such a professional, but I'm like, oh my gosh, I think I've only been doing this for like 6 months.
And you're right, it's just the beginning. Yeah, I'm so glad you brought up the spotlight analogy because so I'm hosting a webinar on March 5th all about The purpose pivot. That's what it's called. It's called the purpose pivot. Dare to dream again and align your career or your business with your calling in 90 days. And when I came up with, okay, this is what I'm going to be teaching, I immediately thought about you. I was like, we need to bring Miriam on because she's the perfect example of somebody who's done this. But I think the reason that this feels so purposeful is because this isn't just about you. And the way that I want to say it's Jay Shetty, so this is like a borrowed definition from Jay Shetty. He says, your passions are for you and your purpose is for others. So in other words, like the way I describe purpose is your gift to the world. And that's why when we think about courage projects, we always tie them to like the bigger goal. How do they make the world a better place? And I think that this is why the spotlight analogy resonated so much with you, because if you're just focused on yourself and like, let's say about creating content and you're like, are people going to think I'm stupid? Or how do I look in this angle? That's where the spotlight is on you. But once you make it about, oh man, I want to help the women who needed to hear what I needed to hear. And when you put the spotlight on them, you're not so worried about the details of how your hair looks or how this looks, or if somebody makes a silly comment or doesn't understand what you're doing, because the purpose is so much bigger because it's about impacting others. And I think that's why you have such a strong purpose, because from the beginning you were always like, I want to help others. And that's where you came from, like this energy of serving, not from this energy of ego and wanting to like go become, just make everything about you. It was definitely about service. And that's why I think that's why you don't care what people have to say anymore, because you're so in touch with your purpose.
Yes, yes. I mean, I don't think I think about that anymore. I'm constantly thinking of like, why is it that I'm doing this? And I think that what has helped a lot is again creating that evidence, like, look at,
Hmm.
I'm coaching women, look at, I'm getting good feedback. I'm I The last workshop I did a Galentine relationship workshop. That was a one workshop where I'm like, oh my goodness. I I think I was shocked because I'm like, I created a safe space. I
Yeah.
created a place where women can open up and share, be vulnerable. And I think I shocked myself on that workshop because I continue to see possibilities that I didn't think possible for myself or
Wow.
ever. And I think that that workshop really has changed the way I see like what I want to do next, because that's what I want to do. I want to help women, and even though I didn't know how, I'm still discovering that how. Um I kept being worried because I'm like, I don't know what my niche is. I don't know what kind of women I want to. And I remember coming and trying to get coaching on that, and it's like, okay, let's not focus on that because that's going to set you back. And so I'm like, I'm just going to coach. I'm just going to receive
Hmm.
women, whatever it is that you have, come to me. Come to me. We're going to figure it out. We're going to do this. I might not have all the answers for you, but rest assured, I'm going to go look and I'm going to find it and I'm going to come back to you and I'm going to help you. I don't it doesn't matter how, because a lot of times we think help is going to be this way, and but it's not. Or we think, oh, it's because it has to work this way, but a lot of
Yep.
times it doesn't work that way. Sometimes it's just so different. It looks very different than what you thought it would be.
Yes. Oh, you bring up such a good point. People, as they think about the future that they want to create, they see it playing out in a specific way, and rarely does it ever happen that way, but it always turns out better than you could have even thought. Always. So, where can people find you? Where can people connect with you?
Right now I'm on Instagram. I do have a Facebook. The Facebook is Miriam Corona. And the Instagram that I have right now, where I'm trying to live more on, is
Mhm.
Crown Miriam. And that's where I live the most right now, that I'm posting and trying to share like my growth And definitely follow me on Instagram, Crown Miriam, and let's connect. Let's connect. Reach out to me if you have questions. Book a call if you need any help. Like I said, I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you. I can promise that.
Absolutely. So we will link all of your stuff down below. Before I let you go, is there anything I didn't ask that you want to share?
One thing I do want to share with everyone is yes, change is going to require that you invest in yourself. Change is going to require that you invest money, invest time, and be committed. If you can provide that, your life is going to change and you will never be the same. I know that because I've experienced it myself. I'm like, we should do a disclaimer that you did not pay me for this. This is my own experience, because it just impacted my life so positively that I couldn't I wouldn't know what path to take in order to gain that self-confidence. I mean, yes, I have so many help from so many people. It involved a whole team. It involved, like they say, a village.
Mhm.
And I'm so thankful for everyone in the cohort that I was in Courage Driven Latina, because I'm about to be there for a year. And I just
Yeah,
wanted to
you're
share
about to
that.
graduate.
I'm about to graduate. So I wanted to share that yes, it just takes work. It takes work working on yourself, a little by little, little by little. Again, this is going to be a year. And
Yeah.
but I know I couldn't have done it without the support of such a beautiful Latino community, for sure.
Yeah. And we appreciate you because I truly believe that the universe, God brings the right people into the program who need the program, but also who contribute. So, what I said earlier, I really meant that how you are this symbol of possibility for people because they've seen your journey and now they see your workshops and now they see you completely embody this identity of a coach. And again, even if those listening, even if your goal isn't becoming a coach, whatever your goal is when it comes to changing, Miriam is a perfect example that it's possible. And I feel like you gave people really tangible, clear guidance on this podcast episode, and you were very vulnerable with the obstacles that you faced. So I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for coming on. And yeah, so if anybody would like to connect with Miriam, we've linked all of your profiles down below in the show notes. And I will see you on Tuesday's call.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me this week. Make sure to visit theericacruz.com. That's Erica with a K, where you can subscribe to the show so you'll never miss an episode. You can help this podcast grow by supporting me with an Apple Podcast rate and review. If you took anything away from this episode, I invite you to take a screenshot and share it on social media so that your favorite badass Latinas can also check it out. Be sure to tag me at the Erica Cruz. That's Erica with a K, because you know I want to see it. If you're ready to join the revolution and be a part of the Courage Driven Latina community, visit couragedrivenlatina.com to get more information and join the waitlist. Thanks again, and I'll see you next week.